Hey guys, so super excited to be able to bring back our 7-day free trial. I want you to try CogornoGolf.com so we can work together and you can see if online coaching is everything that I say it is and if it can really help take your game to the next level, because I know that it can, and over 1,000 people, members we have, also know that it can. And this way you can try it completely risk-free for 7 days. You send in your swings, follow all the instructions that we give you, and then we're going to give you a plan, a specific plan. Hey, do these drills, do this amount of reps. We need to focus on this. Don't worry about that, to really guide you towards your improvement. If you like it, stay on as a member and come join us. I'm in there literally every day answering questions, talking to members, and you get that as well with your membership. Not only do you get the coaching, you get that community support, you get the practice plans, you get all the videos, all the master classes. I'm telling you everything you need to really improve, but I understand you might be skeptical. You got to try it. This is your chance. Free 7-day trial. Click the link in the description down below. Hey guys, Eric here out at the Bethlehem Golf Club. In today's video, we're talking about a super important downswing piece that we often see as the missing link to a really good impact, solid contact, everything you want in your swing. We're going to talk about that in today's video. But first, a quick word from today's video sponsor. All right, guys, I want to thank today's sponsor to this video, the Divot board. Now, this is one of the coolest training aids that I've been trying. I've been trying this for the past couple of weeks. And what this does is helps show you your low point. I have people say all the time, Eric, how do I know when I practice that I'm hitting the ground in the right space? Voila, Divot board. So how it works here is you put the ball right in the middle, and I'm going to hit some shots, and you're going to be able to see it actually shows you where your club hits the turf. We know one of the fundamental pieces to hitting the ball solid is being able to hit the ground at or in front of the golf ball. It gives you instant feedback, so you know right away what to feel to hit ball first, ground second. If you're practicing on mats or at home, I like this Divot board. I've been testing it out the past couple of weeks. I'm gonna use it for my game. I highly suggest that you would use this as well. We'll put a link down in the description down below. You can check it out. All right, guys, so let's talk about the missing link to this great downswing. With me to my left, Mr. Mark Braziller. He's at the Burroughs Golf Club in downtown Soho.
Yes.
I was told,
yeah.
In the heart of Manhattan. Awesome, awesome indoor facility that he has. You guys are in the area, gonna be in that area, go check him out. We'll put his info in the description down below. Mark, thanks for coming out, dude.
Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
So we're talking trail shoulder going down and out. This is one of those videos where we spoil the thing right away.
Sure.
And we were talking a little bit off camera, but what we want to talk about in today's video is, I guess, what we would call the right shoulder plane, and how the trail shoulder works during the downswing. And as we were talking about titles too, right?
Yeah.
We kind of both were like, listen, if you don't get the shoulder plane and shoulder movement correct during your downswing, it's very difficult, right?
Yeah.
Conservatively.
Yeah.
Very difficult to get the sort of impact alignments we want, the shaft lean, etc. And that it is important that the shoulder goes the appropriate amount up, down, and out.
Sure.
So if we can kind of dive in, let's flip-flop spots a little bit. We can kind of dive into like, hey, what is a good shoulder plane?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So whenever I'm in a lesson and trying to demonstrate this to one of my students, I'll often just lay this club right across my shoulder plane up here. Yeah. And I'll make the the scoring line sort of even with my back, and then when I tilt over, you'll notice the club face does look a little pointed down or toe down because I've bent over, so it's still square. And from here, if I were to just, without even making a backswing, sort of attempt to hit this ball with the club, my right shoulder would travel the right amount down and out, and also forward, even though
down
that's not
forward.
in the title.
Okay, yeah.
But yes, there is some forward there.
We'll edit that one in there.
Yeah.
So let's do that one more time.
Yeah.
So club goes right across our shoulders, and this is just like, any iron we're doing across, right? Club face is square, and then so when you're looking from your point of view, that club is actually almost like as if you could hit it.
Yeah.
Feel?
Yeah. I mean, again, from up here, I look at this thing and I think, I haven't bent over yet. I think, that would work up there. But then when I make my little bend over to address the ball, I'm trying to visually, it actually looks like I could, from my eye line, catch the ball with that club.
So if we were hitting like on this plane, right?
Yeah.
You would just get the club to my hands, basically.
Exactly.
That's easy.
Yeah.
The freaking ball being on the ground makes it complicated.
I I would say the #1 reason why I have a job is because we've got to do this on a tilted plane.
Right. And you're charismatic, good-looking guy. And
Oh,
you see all that
thanks.
stuff too.
Appreciate
Let me hop
that.
in there and prove that for a second. So the what we want, we're starting with that. Like, this is how we want the trail shoulder to work. Without seeing someone swing and just teaching a general motion. Club goes across, club head's over here, and I'm getting this club head down behind the golf ball.
Yep.
And that's giving me an adequate amount of down,
Sure.
out,
Yep.
and forward.
Yep.
Right? Down, out, and forward.
That's exactly right.
Now let me just hit with
Yeah.
that for a second. So if I was just learning the general piece, maybe I would just start with, if I came in, I'm like, hey dude, I don't want anything else out of this lesson other than this right shoulder thing.
Sure.
Right? I would do that maybe a couple of times, start to grab a feel as I'm going. Mark, let me just have you right there.
Yeah.
As I'm coming down, I'm trying to mimic that shoulder doing that same down, out, and forward. And when I'm at impact,
Yep.
in reality, impact, my shoulder isn't as far forward as the drill. That drill's probably more for like a little post impact.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
fair?
but again, if we're dealing with the average golfer who tends to have their hands and arms outrace their body pivot, it's not a bad idea to try to get that right shoulder all the way there before impact. And it gives a lot of, there's a lot of positive side effects from that you don't have to think about, like, developing this trail arm bent, delayed wrist, keeping your right wrist in extension and coming in with shaft lean and lower dynamic.
It's like a little over exaggeration would be A-okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So trail shoulder down, out, and forward. Let's just hit one first to start with. So now as we start to go in, right, and we're kind of teaching that motion, everyone's coming from a different spot.
Sure.
Everyone kind of has different tendencies. Their ball flight does different things. Maybe as we work in here, I would say two things for us to discuss. One would be kind of how and why that trail shoulder allows those good things you mentioned, arm and wrist bend. And the second one, which I'd like to do first, is how to know where you're at and which one to feel more of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like, let's start with the down part.
Yeah.
I would say that most of the higher handicap players, in terms of the club, tend to have too much, the club head too far out.
Absolutely.
And hitting too far down and left. And generally that would be associated with the least amount of down.
Totally.
Right? Head goes forward. So if we watch from this face-on camera here, the more my right shoulder goes down towards my right hip, which I'm gonna exaggerate, we can see that the head goes back.
Absolutely.
Right? Head goes back and the club from the down the line kind of goes a little bit back and down. So that down part, all else equal, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, or if you feel different, makes the club head, would make the club head approach the ball a bit more with a shallow angle of attack, kind of less divot, and a bit more from inside.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
100%.
Yeah. So who would maybe need more of that would be the player who has this maybe head too far forward too long, shaft too steep and across.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's a really good and simple way to put it. I think we discussed this also off camera. If most really good young players start off hitting a big hook, you're going to see a lot of that right shoulder lowering, maybe too early, and then eventually they learn how to get it a little bit more down, out, and forward, and they compress it a little better and hit it a little straighter.
And we were talking me too. Like frankly, that would be my error, right? Which would be like a good player problem. Like I think if you're to the point where your shoulder gets too close to your hip, they would generally do it too early, maybe too much too early. Yeah. But they would get, like you said, the push hook pattern.
Yeah.
So like the slicer, if you pull your irons, you may start by just having the right shoulder feel like it gets closer to the hip.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would keep the head more back, shallow it out, swing a little more from inside. But now the player like me who does that too much, I then need more,
right? You need more out and more forward.
More out and more forward.
Which is, it's a funny thing, and I find myself telling my players all the time this, when you hear what a tour player is working on, I mean, tour players are trying to often, bring the flight down a bit, take some of the draw out, and most club golfers need height and need draw. So You know.
I'm glad you said that. And it's a bit like, I like to use the money and tax example a lot. It's like if you listen to a group of billionaires talk about financial kind of strategies, their financial problems are way different than ours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like we want to do the things to get to the level of problems they have.
For sure.
Right? I want big tax problems
Yeah,
one day,
yeah.
right? And so to me, I would look at the side bend somewhat like that, in that if you look across the board, they're going to have more of that piece. Like maybe if you're a higher handicap, maybe let that be a bit of your problem
For
first,
sure. Yeah.
and then learn the this part. So if I'm that player, right, I want the big tax bill, I'm almost going to feel more. I mean, I guess you do the drill right, it solves all the stuff, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it puts you in
Like I don't need to do.
No,
I can just do the drill.
The great thing about the drill is it does give you literal, right? I mean, it gives you that feel, and without, by keeping this topic tidy and not getting too into other things,
Yeah.
you do notice things going on with your pelvis that are also totally what we want. If you screwed this up and went too far down, or you came up too high, that would all look different too.
If
So
I kind of did this action.
yeah, then you see a little hip slide.
No turn.
No turn,
Yeah.
right? And then if you came out this way, you might see a spin out
Yeah, okay.
and lurching forward. So yes, this is literally good. But again, as all of us coaches tend to know, you do have to know where you're coming from to know where to go. So
Tell 'em, Mark.
I would tell everybody to film your swing at home, find out where you're at, see a coach, and then you'll know which element to work on.
And so as I'm working through here, and I'm feeling these, I would expect as the player gets, thank you, sir. I would expect as the player gets, I haven't missed a green all year. I would expect as the player gets like better at that.
Yeah.
From a ball flight perspective, they would maybe have a little more shaft lean. Ball should come off the face hotter, like more solid contact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When I'm doing that. And I think a feeling wise, if I get my shoulder more down, out, and forward, like for me, I quite literally feel like my shoulder's closer to the ground.
Yep.
My torso feels kind of closer, more bent over. And my shoulder feels like it's more down and forward compared to normal.
Yep.
Kind of more tilted over on the way through. I think those are similar feels that someone would get in the beginning of doing this. Like,
For sure.
holy cow, I'm like way closer to the ground.
Yep.
Which leads me to a nice little transition.
Yeah.
Which is like, if that is the case,
Totally.
I've got to have some differences here.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to have that right elbow a bit more bent, which is just sort of, this bicep curl action. So you'd have a little bit more bend in that elbow.
Yep.
And that right wrist has got to stay in extension or bent back. If you let that right arm out and fully extend it like someone who might be further away from the ball would do, you're going to chunk everything there.
So you're saying like if I have my shoulder back,
Yeah,
I've got to extend the arm
Absolutely.
like just to get to the ball.
absolutely.
Just like if we did this plane.
yeah, yep,
Yeah, there's the throw.
for sure.
So now if I have that as a habit of the throwing,
Yeah,
and then now I do transport the shoulder well,
yeah,
and I'm like, Mark, what's
Totally.
up, dude? Fat shots. And
totally.
then you'd be like, hey,
I spend a lot of my time, if you don't mind me hopping in
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
that cool?
please do.
And this is your precious space.
No, get in there, baby.
Yeah, so I show this to people all the time that if you were to just bring the club about, halfway back here, and, we get it a little bit behind, your hands, so we're slightly from the inside, and you've got a little bit of elbow bend, face down at the ground a little bit. If I told you that you weren't allowed to let any of these arm wrist angles out, how would you hit the ball? And everyone kind of 10 times out of 10 will drive their right shoulder down, out, and forward and end up looking like DJ, right?
yeah.
Now, again, they probably don't have the club speed to pull off that move and have it work.
Yeah.
But again, feeling real, right? Their right shoulder won't end up that far forward. Their right arm will come out slightly, and they'll look like plenty of great players out there.
Yeah.
Right?
And so they would so what you certainly wouldn't do from here if you said that to me is I wouldn't be like, hey, why don't I keep my shoulder back?
Yeah, no way.
Right?
No, not for you.
No, I would have my shoulder go down and forward. But as you do this, right, because someone will do the shoulder and they're going to chunk some. And
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
from a feel perspective, the simple quick answer, my sentence answer on there in a comment, which will happen on this video, will be keep your right arm more bent longer and keep your right wrist more bent longer
Yeah.
to the point where the arc of the club is where you need it to be.
Completely. And I find a good word, and your viewers might like this too, is it's passive.
Yeah.
It's not just bent. It's not, we're not firmly holding angles here. We've got this right arm passive.
And so active would be the like throw twist.
Yeah.
Passive would be less of those.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if they're down doing that, if the arm doesn't bend itself, they have to bend it.
Yeah, sure.
If they are, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's always that interesting thing, and I think us taking lessons, and we'll wrap this up with this, is like, should that happen automatically, or do I need to think about it? And I love that question. It's a good question. And I think the answer is so simple, in that if it doesn't happen automatically, you must think about it.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. In an ideal world, all these things would line up perfectly, In
Utopia, 70 and sunny every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, I get that question a lot too, when I'm teaching is, should this be something I have to do? Should it happen on its own? And I go, well, if we're lucky, it'll happen on its own. Let's see if it happens on its own.
Yes.
So, I'll get people up to the top of this backswing position.
Yeah.
And I'll say, let's, with one arm, let's leave the right arm right where it is, move this right shoulder down, out, and forward, and see if this all lines up. And if it doesn't, then we'll get into some of the mechanics that they'll have to think about, but less is more with thinking.
Less is more. And give yourself more than one rep to see if it does happen by itself.
Totally.
Separate conversation. Mark, awesome. Burroughs Golf Club. We're going to put the link down below. If you guys are in Manhattan or near the area, want to hook up with him, we'll put that down below. And for goodness sake, get your trail shoulder down and forward. If you want to watch more videos on the trail shoulder, we're going to put a card on the screen. If you want to get online lessons, CogornoGolf.com, which I highly suggest. We'll also put that on the screen. Thank you guys for watching.